right.
You're holding.
Good evening, members of council. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting of Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2013 to order. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the agenda for the April 2nd, 2013 regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted. Are there any changes to the agenda? Councillor Papp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, with the indulgence and the agreement of council, could I ask that item under 7.1 under new business, the Welland Pelham Chamber Business Development Strategy be moved forward so we can deal with it up front.
First?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor King? I'm going to call the question on that amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. Any other changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. So that item, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. It has been moved by Councillor Ribyak, seconded by Councillor King, that agenda item 7.1, being the business development strategy submitted by the Pelham Welland Chamber of Commerce, be received. That's the motion. Discussion to that. It's just simply to receive. Councillor?
Okay, that's fine. Then it'll come back to us with a recommendation or just to receive it?
Mr. CAO?
Just so we're clear on it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The motion as it's being read is there an echo?
There is.
Weird. Yeah, sorry. It would just be simply to receive the report, and that would be the end of it. If council wishes to act on the report, then the motion would have to be amended.
Right, that's, okay. I guess, I thought the idea of the presentation was that we would move forward on the report from the chamber and undertake that particular piece of work.
Councillor, no, I think we received it last meeting. We wanted to hear a little bit more information from the chamber, which we've heard. And then now it's up to council to decide if it wants to move in that direction or not. I hear that you're leaning to move in that direction, that you can speak to it, and we can hear from other colleagues around the table as to the need. And then we can, so it's up for debate.
Okay, well, I think we should move forward on it. I think it's a precursor for us for developing so saying to one of my colleagues, a comprehensive strategic economic development plan later on. I think, and we should engage other partners, and I think there are both other communities of business, such as the PBA and other groups that would be engaged as part of this whole initial thrust. So I'm trusting that it's been self-explanatory and will assist us in our whole ability to maintain and understand what's going on in local business. So on that note, I think that's just the gist of it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Self-explanatory, what they've presented.
Okay, thank you.
And I look forward to other comments.
And we have a couple. Councillor Kersey wants to go next, and others.
For clarity, Mr. Mayor, his Councillor Papp moved an amendment to
He
move
has
forward,
not yet.
or-
No, I have not moved it.
So you just want to hear what our
I
comments
just want to hear what your comments are, and then we'll.
Okay, fine. If I may?
Yeah, please.
I would not be supportive of moving ahead with this at the present moment. I think you all know how I feel about economic development, but I don't think this council has sat down and, in and of itself, formed or strategized with respect to what we mean by economic development, what our expectations are from an economic development plan, who should be the lead on it, how we should go about engaging the business community. There are other players and stakeholders in the field that we need to consider, even apart from businesses. Such things as rec and culture and all of that fold into an economic development plan that's comprehensive. And so I appreciate the work that was put forward by the chamber, and I appreciate their offer, and in fact they may at some point in time be engaged to proceed with what they've put forward. I would like us as a council to give it a little bit more thought and develop a plan within our own thought processes here, and then go about engaging the professionals that we feel we need to help us move that plan forward. So at this point, I think it's somewhat premature, and I would not support it if it was moved to go ahead with it at this time.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Others? Counselor Durling?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question through you, perhaps to our CAO, because we've just embarked on a partnership with others involving economic development, and you're taking a lead part in that, Mr. CAO. I'm just wondering if, that really would give us some direction after you get the broader scope, and again, as it was mentioned, from the 5,000-foot level, if that group could shed some light onto what we in particular may need, and I just going off what Councillor Kirsty is saying, that we may be a bit premature in here, that, if in fact we move forward with an initiative of our own, or in this regard, that it may be off on a tangent away from the actual economic development plan that is there. And I'm just wondering, I'd really like to get our CAO's opinion, having been involved with the formative part of that other group, and what the work of that group might do to reflect upon the work that Pelham needs or should do or will be doing in the future.
Thank you, Mr. CO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To answer the councilor's question, the work that I have, that I'm becoming involved with on a regional level is just that, regional. I think it's got a very large scope. I have the privilege to sit with Mr. Malo on that committee. We've talked at our inaugural meeting about a number of initiatives such as unified planning, various development issues, foreign investment. So those are really big picture for regional discussion, I think. My own experience has been in a community such as Pelham, that a business expansion retention study is absolutely the best way to go as far as economic development. With respect to Councillor Kersey, I'm not sure if it's premature or not. I just know that that is one essential part of the mix. The other part of the mix in this is the regional government's role, and I have talked with the Director of Economic Development with regards to Pelham-specific projects back when she was first hired, and she indicated to me that a business expansion retention study would be something that the region would be interested in getting involved with from an economic development point of view. So I would like to have the discussion with her and see if there's regional support, and I'm thinking possible funding. This does come with a price tag. The council has to figure out where the money would come from to pay for it, and how to proceed. So probably not totally answering your question. I certainly think that a business expansion retention study is absolutely the way to go in setting the stage for an economic development plan on a local level. But I think that, again, we should talk to the region about this and see if they're a willing partner to come to the table on this project as well.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett, and I appreciate that comment. I wanted that opinion because my next question was dealing around the financial aspect of this. We have not budgeted anything for it at this particular point in time, so if we give a carte blanche, go ahead with it, then are we not sticking our necks out to say, okay, we are committing ourselves to some money that we really don't have as yet, and we definitely need some research into what we're going to do in order to achieve the goals that the chamber has set forward for this, and in fact, definitely we need something to have a foundation for this before we embark on a project. That's only my opinion, and I think in that regard it may be a bit premature. That yes, the concept of it is excellent, and I'm fully in support of doing anything we can to help our business community. However, not at the expense of the community as a whole. So, and looking at, although it's not a very high amount of money, it still is a amount of money, and I know the minute you talk about things that are in 5 figures or better, that the treasurer starts to get very interested in the conversation, and I think that we need some investigation before we can really give it a go-ahead just on that alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Others for the first time? Councillor Rubiak, and I see Councillor Papp wants to comment in a second. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm going to echo some of the comments that we've already heard. I know that when I first read through this project, I understood that there was at a very high level an excellent objective to be to be realized through this activity. Though I must say that in more specific terms, I wasn't entirely clear as to what it was that we were going to get, and certainly not who was doing what and how much, and who was going to pay for what. As a result of today's explanation earlier, I came to realize that what was being planned, at least in the initial phases, was a great deal of information gathering and a great deal of knowledge about what it is what the lay of the land here is. And I think that is a really good objective to achieve, and I think we probably have to do that at some point, regardless of which direction we go in. And the offer of the involvement of the Chamber in doing that with us seems like a pretty good one, and I wouldn't have an objection to that objective being followed. But I would like to know really who is going to do what, who's going to pay for what in doing that. So I have that misgiving, and despite the greater clarity that I now have, having heard the comments of others, I too would like to know where this sits in the in the bigger picture of economic development planning that we're doing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have it at, not at council, but at a committee, so that we could discuss that. So others for a first time, I'm just going to comment, and then I'll ask Councillor Papp for his next comments. I'm trying to look as councillors are debating here. I should have been prepared, but council will recall that as our capital budget deliberations, we did earmark $50,000 and red circled it. Part of it was for town branding, which we've now dealt with and approved, but part of it was for economic development and for working together with the Pelham Promotions Committee. And so councillors are asking, where could the funding from this come from? And I see this as a natural in that earmarked area. In terms of this particular initiative, I was thinking the same thing. Wouldn't it be great to just go out there and start talking about our economic development strategy, working together with the community, doing all the things that we need to do to plan that out, as we're good at engaging the community in the activities, and say, what is it that we want and need in our community? Sitting down with the Chamber and hearing them again this evening, and hearing from our CAO, all have indicated that the first basis for that is really getting a better understanding of what's here in our community. Those businesses, the 600 that are here in our community, and others, and we certainly have glimpses of that information, but we don't have complete information. And so it's, to use the CAO's language, it's sort of some of the fact-finding that's required as a precursor for any of those activities. And as I see back to the proposal that's before us, it's saying that one of further review is the Pelham-focused peer advisory group program, a locally based small and medium-sized businesses working together to work on that strategy. And I think that's the piece that we all want to sink our teeth into. But the issue is, as the CEO indicated, the first step of that is to gather the information that we require. There could be something there from the region. Recalling the region's budget, I don't think there was anything there. The region was just carrying on as it was, and invariably, it's very difficult. Mr. Milo was the director of economic development of the region, and getting that information and having it at one's fingertips was always one of the challenges as I reflect on economic development at the region. It's just sort of not there, and one ends up looking to those that are the loudest or those that are the biggest, but often you might be missing some of the activities or the potential activities that are there across broad spectrums of the community. So is it this project? I think so, but certainly the work is, what I'm hearing does have to be done in terms of gathering that information about our community. The work that Councillor Papp and myself worked on, along with the Pelham Business Association a number of years ago, and is currently on our website, is there, but it's not prescriptive enough. It doesn't include everybody. In fact, there's you know, people, I think, are reluctant sometimes to put their information there, and they're saying, what are you going to use it for? Well, it would be clear in this case what we're going to use it for, that it would be a strategy for the entire community. And it may not be a broad brush, single plan. I think what's being proposed here is something with certain niches and different pockets and different elements. So I think Mr. Milo spoke about this, what might be great for retailers might be a totally different approach for some of the greenhouse operations that we have, or some of the other home-based businesses with dealing with human resources that we don't even know that are out there. How many times in the past have we gone out for a tender for something and somebody from the community has come back to us and said, I do that, why did you ask me? Oh, well, so this will allow us to have that information as well and indeed update it. So I see a number of benefits to it. So I think that answers what some of the colleagues around the table have been discussing, and I note that Councillor Papp wants to speak.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor this, and I respect your opinions on it. I mean, obviously, if we don't have the money to finance it, that presents a problem unto itself. If there's a way in which we could refer it back and piece out those particular areas of fact-finding, because I see that it's maybe a little too, if it's generalized, and in the meantime, have our CAO explore whether there are funding options from the region and come back. I don't think a deferral would hurt us for a couple of weeks at least to find out. And if the answer is that we can't move forward and we need something larger, I think we can live with that. You know, I'm prepared to do that.
Okay.
I'd rather not us, you know, I'm not suggesting we plow forward and then with certain uncertainty. I mean, the fact is that we need a broad-based economic strategy. There's no question about that. In the meantime, we got to do some of the fact-finding, first of all, because we don't really have a good grasp of what's out there. We really don't know what's, and this was part of the plan. So I'm prepared to, you know, proceed along those lines, investigate and explore that, and maybe we can deal it again in Cowan in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I defer to my colleagues.
All right. Colleagues? Councillor?
Perhaps, Mr. Mayor, it would be worthwhile proposing that you call a specially called council or committee meeting to discuss strictly economic development and a vision for economic development, and try and maybe do a how might we session on how we can develop various strategies and the types of roles that we see the various sectors of the community playing in that economic development strategy. And then from there, the council will have a clear action plan on which we can rely, and then we go out and find the players that we need to bring that information that we find ourselves short of into play. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not criticizing the proposal of the chamber. I just think that we need to take this preliminary step first so that we all are on the same page. We have a plan in place, and then we have an action plan that we can move forward on. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, thank you. And you know what, Councillor, I really do appreciate that, especially recalling back to our budget deliberations when we did circle this particular item, the $50,000. And when you started your comments this evening, you said, I think you know how I feel about economic development. Yeah, you're very strong on it, and your feeling is that we should indeed do it. But it also sounds like you're suggesting that we should all agree on the approach that we're going to take and get all the players in the room, as Councillor Durley asked about the region as well. So I do appreciate that, and perhaps we can have a motion to that regard. In terms of if we do have a special meeting, we'd certainly ask the chamber to be present. I would also assume members of the Pelham Business Association to be present, Ms. Simzovic or designate from the region to be present. Who else should be there in terms of, or maybe we can work on that.
We can work on the invitations.
And try to work on this in April or May.
Yeah.
To bring all the players in the room and plot the way forward, so do some fact finding. Okay? Maybe there's also, I hearken back to some of the discussions that we've had. Mr. CAO was there when we met with Minister Chan and speaking about Summerfest, indicating and thanking them for the cultural master plan. So that work is imminent, and we can feed that into the discussion as well. And perhaps there's some representatives from the province
when they talk about that there are, and I think it's outlined in this proposal, that there is funding potentially under the Rural Economic Development Plan from the province. So maybe they need to be involved in this as well. And we can facilitate that meeting and try to get some members of the province involved as well. Okay? So are we okay that, and Councillor Papp or Councillor Kirsty, did you make that motion that we call a special meeting and engage that group from the community as was outlined, including perhaps the province and the region, to get involved in this and have a discussion about economic development?
I'd be pleased to
Councillor
move that.
Kirsty, will move that? Do you have that down? Okay. The clerk says that she has that down. Anything further to that motion that's before us? Good idea, okay. I'm going to call the question on the motion. Is that an amendment to this, receive it and? Is that?
It could be an amendment to receive it and, or it could be a separate motion to, and
Okay,
then go
let's
back and-
take it an amendment to receive and call a special meeting, okay? So call the question on that amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. Is there anything further to that? And we look forward, there isn't, so I'll call the question on the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And we look forward to that fulsome discussion at that time. Thank you, colleagues. Good discussion. So we look forward to that. And thank you, Dolores and Vern, for being here, and hopefully you're amenable to continue to be involved in this. No doubt you are. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate your ongoing work and support. I neglected to call for disclosure of pecuniary interest. And I do have an item of, personally, but I wonder if colleagues are on the table of any items of pecuniary interest they need to disclose at this time. I do have one, and that is item 532, which is a site plan agreement for 803 Canberra Road. I own property in the area and am in the circulation area for changes there, so I will declare a conflict. Okay, thank you. Next, we move to corporate services. And it has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kirsty. The Committee of the Whole recommended Council that the 2013 Capital Project Update Report be received for information. Any discussion on any of those items?
Very clear, very good.
I did have a question about the Recreation Cultural Services Decorate Downtown Core. There's that $8,000 from, I guess, last year we talked about during the budget. I know that we still have the Cultural Capital Plan signs up. Is that what that funding's for, to the new flagpoles? I don't know who can answer that. Mr. Mantle?
I think we did identify additional banners in the area. I think we haven't come up with a design yet, but I think they're about $150 a piece to buy them. So we're working on that right now.
Okay, so there is, when do you think that'll be
As they
activated?
come up with a design as to what it should be, maybe the comfort maple, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think some had
Bosley.
suggested seasonal approach, et cetera. Okay. Councillor Kersey, on that item?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I think there was also some funding in there planned for further expansion of the Christmas decorations, some lighting that we haven't really moved ahead with, and maybe this is something the beautification committee can be engaged in and develop, look at, how we might schedule changing the banners for seasons, the lighting, that sort of thing. We probably need to start working on that sooner rather than later if in fact we wanted to spend some money on lighting.
Okay. And I think of things like Summerfest, so a promotion for Summerfest, putting the banners up in anticipation of the event and immediately following and other things. So if colleagues around the table are comfortable with sort of a plan being approached on that way, maybe that's something you can carry forward to that committee, Council. Okay?
Be happy to.
Thank you. And then I did talk about the cultural asset mapping, cultural master plan. Do we have any timing on that? Mr. CEO?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not exactly sure. Ms. Van Ravensway would have that information, but she's in other locales this evening.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all I had on that particular item. So, any other councillors have any items on that report? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is the first quarter revenue and expenditure report. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King, that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the 2013 first quarter revenue and expenditure report be received for information. Any discussion? Looks like we're well on target. It's early in the year, so looks good so far. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the 2012 projected year-end surplus. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the 2012 projected year-end surplus be allocated as follows. Welland Hospital Foundation donation, $20,000. The Community Improvement Plan Reserve, $25,000. And the Working Funds Reserve, $57,700, for a total surplus of $102,700. Any discussion regarding the matter? Councillor Papp?
Very quickly, I want to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to staff and your consideration of my colleagues for the hospital donation. You don't realize on the streets what you have done, and particularly the town of Wainfleet, the city of Welland, of all. And I just recently heard that a very large industry not far from here has also contributed to the mammograph, and they are 2/3 of the way there. So they have raised $400,000 towards a new.
Oh, that's great.
That's so you are to be all commended for doing this work and supporting it. It's done a tremendous impact.
Thank you.
Second,
Councillor Papp, I hadn't heard, so other municipalities have gotten involved as well?
Township of Wainfleet, 50,000. The city of Welland, 100,000.
Great.
And a private corporate donation out of the blue happened last week. I can't say I know who it is, but Mr. Walsh will tell you. And they were, how could I say, so moved by the fact that the three municipalities, and I think Port Colborne were so willing to put money towards that particular piece of equipment that it's triggered these other results. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that
From
update,
the bottom of
Councillor.
my heart.
Thank you. Anything else on that particular item? And then
Not on that
Coun-
particular item, but
Okay.
just an appendix to this report, which is health services in brackets for the cemeteries. I do have a question on the utilities entry in that. I did email the treasurer about this, and the answer that I got was okay as far as the treasurer is concerned, but I still have some concerns on the overspending. And the note 1 is what particularly gets me, the excess water used in sounding both cemeteries. We're looking at an overspending of almost $6,400, and I just wonder, that seems like a lot of water, or is there something wrong with the meter or with something else? I just wonder if we can get an explanation of that, because that just jumps out at me. I'm
Yep.
saying
Okay.
something's wrong here.
Mr. Mantle, can you provide some clarity?
We've done a little bit of research on that, and I think it might be involved, it was a dry summer, for one thing, but also there was a retrofit done on the water meter at that site. And I think that may have something to do with it. We're investigating that right now to see if it's a problem with the meter, and we can report back as to what we find.
Okay. It had to be a real dry summer for $6,400. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Anything further on that report? Councillor Clark and then Councillor Papp. Councillor Clark.
Just one question for the treasurer through you, Mr. Mayor, is just what is the total in the CIP reserve fund right now?
I withdraw my.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Right now, it's about 150, so this will put it back up to 200,000, or 175.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Others? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you for that. The next item is the Corporate Services Report. And it has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Corporate Services Monthly Report for information. Discussion on any of those items? Ms. Pupo, I was intrigued. Can we hear a little bit more about the phone system? Why it's not a voice over protocol, which was promoted as what was required here? What prompted the change?
Through you, to you, Mr. Mayor. The system, the investigation with the system with the vendors that were chosen indicated that there's the possibility of dropped calls with a complete VoIP system. So because we do not have internet out at Fire Station number 3, Old Pelham Town Hall, the pool house, there's also requirements to put internet at those sites, but they could not guarantee the service and the service levels. And also the pulling of the internet use would be problematic in the town if everybody was accessing the phones at the same time. So they developed a hybrid version, which is they are over it can be over an internet or over a private network. The private network makes sure that we do not have a dropped call ever. So that's what the security of that is. And also it does allow all the same benefits that we had with the complete VoIP system. We're still getting all of those benefits, except that you can't take a phone from this building to another home or to another residence and put it in and use it as an internet, which was one of the things that you could essentially work from home from your own office. So that's the only difference on this system. So we had discussions with the CAO on this just to make sure that we are going in the right direction, and that's the direction that would make sure that there was complete security of the line and exceptional customer service at all times.
Okay, and is it in line in terms of the budget? Is it the same?
Yes.
So
It
was
should
it
be on the tender report.
$30,000, is that correct?
I thought it was on the tender report. This is the tender report attached there?
It doesn't say what, it was there, but there's no numbers, it's just the budget number.
The budget was 25,000 and the total project cost is 24.2 or something like that. But if it's not on this report here, I'll make sure it's on the last one. I was at the Regents meeting when the report got uploaded, so I didn't get the chance to see it.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I think some of this has already been talked about the arches, so that's good news. Just a question about the, I guess it's been answered. Okay, that's it. Anything further? I won't carry on. Gonna call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next has been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Papp, that correspondence dated March 20th, 2013 from Dr. H. Ventnor, Dr. D. Pelser, and Dr. I. Nunes of the Fawn Hill Family Medicine Center be received and referred to staff for consideration. I presume that's for consideration as we continue to work on this issue. Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. The next is the monthly report. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Papp. The Committee of the Whole received the March 2013 Public Works and Utilities Report for information. Discussion, questions? I have some questions. Just about Effingham Street reconstruction, 16 Road to Kilman Road. It says that it's substantially complete. Can we just hear about, I know there's a challenge with water. So it says this spring, when can that be dealt with, Mr. Mantle?
The challenge with the water is just erosion. As soon as the seed starts to take hold from the hydro seeding last fall, then you'll see that it'll maintain itself at that point. There's also the reflectorized cat eyes that go up the center line. They have to be installed also in the asphalt. Yeah, that's one of the outstanding items. And there's several deficient items out there also, not quite up to our usual standards.
Okay. Look forward to that. Thank you. Tender preparation. Just I guess a general question. I'm surprised to see this here, Mr. Mantle. I presumed or assumed that all tenders are done through corporate services. So is that the case?
I can speak to that. That's for you. The tender specifications are done by individual departments. So we've got a kind of what we call a plug-and-play document where all these insurance and risk requirements are done. But Public Works or the individual department would have the expertise to fill out the specifications for that. So they prepare all of that documentation. It's forwarded to the purchasing department, and it's reviewed and released from there.
So all tenders go out from the one department,
They
not
all
from
go
any
from
others, or
purchasing, yes.
whether it's a request for proposals or anything?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with any questions? Councillor Gurley.
Well, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one little question about the projects on public work and roads. The bullet 10, roadside garbage pickup of residential wastes and home renovation debris. Elaborate on that. Are people throwing things in the ditches that we're having to pick up? Is that what that is?
They do.
Is there any way that we can identify they are and somehow get the offenders not to be offending anymore, or have some consequence to this type of action?
From time to time, if it looks like household waste, we'll go through it or have the region go through it. And they're very good at sleuthing through the refuse to find indicators as to where it came from.
Okay, because it costs us a lot of money to have stuff picked up, and if this is being abused like that, we should try to stop the abuse somehow. Thank you.
CSI Waste Management, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mantle. Others, Councillor Papp, did you have something?
Well, yes, I'm not going to belabor this, but I think even on our little park down the street from where I live, people left their garbage in the children's playground. I'm just stunned. So, I agree with Mr. Mantle, through you, check out who it is. I've just flabbergasted. Why would you leave that out in the middle of the children's playground?
Okay, thank you.
It's not a good sign.
Anything further? Councillor Kersey, I'm sorry.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Is this the appropriate time to bring up a new project that we might want Public Works to look into, or not? Or if somebody could tell me when and where and how we should be doing that with our new format.
What's the, perhaps I don't understand what the project is that.
Well, the project that I would like to bring up, and I think it's in the realm of Public Works, and that's why I raise it at this point, is I would like to have the traffic looked at in the downtown core of Font Hill, specifically dealing with trucks turning off of Highway 20. Also, a left-hand turn out of Pelham Town Square Access Road, and/or to deal with the closure of that access road during specific times during the year and the types of events that might be able to be held there. So it would be, we'd need a report from staff to look into that, or how we would go about looking into that so we can make an informed decision.
Okay, Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that most of those components are being addressed through the downtown master plan. So I think that as that plan moves forward, then we can address those issues directly with the consultants so that they end up in the report with recommendations.
Fine. Good.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to that. Anything else? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. I think to your question in general, Councillor, about how does one add something to the agenda or get something on or discussed, if it's not specifically in a report, a question, is appropriate at any time at that specific section. We've also directed to the staff, I don't think it's in this particular meeting, but in future meetings, that there be a specific section for innovation and those kind of things. But I think it would also be important for colleagues around the table to know that there's a councillor wants to raise a specific issue at a specific time. So when we adopt the agenda, it would be prudent to add something to the agenda at that point to say, I'd like to also discuss under innovation or new business or wherever you want to put it, traffic calming measures in the downtown and traffic counts, etc. And then it can be added to the agenda there. So it kind of depends on what the issue is. And if it's especially if it's just a one-off question, that's great. But if there's action that you want colleagues to discuss and debate and know about, those would be the areas. I hope that's helpful.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that Committee of the Whole receive the issue sheet regarding repeal of site plan agreement for 529 Weber Road, and that staff be directed to prepare the necessary bylaw to repeal the site plan control agreement for 529 Weber Road and present the required bylaw at the next regular council meeting. Any discussion regarding this matter? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item I have a conflict of interest with, and I would ask Councillor Clark to take the chair.
I need another seconder for it because you're,
Oh, right, okay.
you could just call for a seconder.
Okay, I need a, this is right now?
Just call for a seconder on the motion.
Okay, I need a seconder for this, next motion. Councillor Durley. Okay, our next, just carry on with this. Okay, our next item is a motion from Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Durley, that Committee of the Whole receive the issue sheet regarding a site plan agreement for 803 Canberra Road, and that Committee of the Whole recommend that Council approve the site plan application SP-01/13 for Mr. Brian Kuzi at 803 Canberra Road, and that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement between the town of Pelham and Brian Kuzi to be presented at the next regular council meeting. Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, somebody like to, good mayor back?
How did he know?
Oh, right here. Okay, just,
Last to the door.
Why is he standing next to the door?
Thank you, Councillor. The next item has been moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kersey. The Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Planning and Development Services Report for information. Discussion, questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item is Fire Services. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Fire Services Report for information. Comments or questions? Councillor Kersey.
Mayor, through you to our chief. I noticed that we've closed 13 old complaints. I just wonder, how many do we still have outstanding that need to be dealt with? Maybe an unfair question.
Yeah, we really quite haven't figured out the filing system in its entirety. We still have boxes of stuff to go through. So at this point, I'll give you a fair number.
Thank you. Just maybe to that, new complaints open 6, new complaints closed, so that's within the month?
Yes.
5. And then old complaints closed 13. So can you just maybe elaborate on that, Chief, how that process works?
So, as far as like new complaints and then new complaints closed, if we can handle something immediately, most of these are the same day. People come in, we talk to them, go out and do a site visit with some of the owners, whatever the case may be. There's a variety of different reasons. We're able to close them almost immediately. So like those are the ones that happen fairly quickly. And then we still have, and if someone has to come in, we've had one citizen come in and it's gonna be, they have to fill out the form that we developed. And that one will take some time, probably more than a month to settle. But anything we settle immediately, we open and close.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity. Anything else? Councillor Papp?
Quick question, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chief. Are you going to be in a position in April to, or Mr. CAO, to come with a site recommendation for Station 3?
Yes, this week will be the final, I think it's tomorrow, is it? Treasurer, the letter we sent was tomorrow? Yes, so we have 2 other properties we're waiting for So we'll have our total. We're trying to schedule how might we next week, where we're gonna sit down and develop the criteria for selecting. And it looks like we're gonna have somewhere between 2 and 4 properties to make a selection from. So after we complete that, the committee's gonna meet, and we'll make our recommendations of 1 or 2, or whatever, however it goes.
And Chief, who's on the committee when you say committee?
I have 4 gentlemen from the district chief and the senior officers and their association president from Station 3 and myself. Currently, we're not really, we're just kind of gathering information. We're not in any decision-making modes or anything. We're just kind of working our way at doing these presentations.
Okay, thank you. Counselor?
Again, 30 seconds. Will you be in a position to recommend to council the actual site itself, or are you going to, you will be? That's great. That's what I'm getting at. So we'll be in a
Yes.
process of
right?
purchasing.
Mr. CEO?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. Yeah, I believe we'll be in
You'll be-
a strong position to make a formal recommendation to council for approval. I'm not convinced for the 15th, maybe,
Yes, I would.
or maybe May. I don't want to
Okay.
commit. But I'll be working with the chief to facilitate the session with the committee to do the, select the criteria of which to evaluate, and then to do the evaluation, and that way we'll have a solid recommendation coming from that committee to council for consideration.
I think that's great. I think in light of everything, so let's say at the least 30 days from now, we'll be in a position, first meeting in May, just to give you, I don't want to put pressure, but I am. Just to say that we've got a site selected, and we're satisfied that it meets all our requirements. I know, wipe that, take that off his desk. That's great. I think, great to hear.
Good. Thank you,
Great job.
Counselor. Thank you, Chief, and look forward to that. Thank you. Others? There being none, I call the questions. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, that the Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Recreation, Culture, and Wellness Report for information. Any discussion items there? Councillor Papp?
No, just quickly, I was reading somewhere about the public washroom signage. Are we, are we actually going to designate the public washroom signage here in the building as well? Maybe Councillor King, you
Councillor
can
King?
help me with this. Not a big deal, I was just curious.
There are public facilities that have been designated.
Right.
This building, the library, Centennial Park, Harold Black Park, to name a few of them, that will have signage
Okay.
identifying whether they're seasonal hours or
Right.
otherwise.
Okay, that's good. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Others? Just want to draw your attention very briefly to the Grand Fondo, number 15 there, under the first part. Councillor Kersey was involved a little bit in that discussion along with staff. Some very exciting potential here, so I think the director is just giving us a hint of what's being put together here in terms of the Grand Fondo Niagara, but Pelham, as it says here, depending on the route, could either touch our community or could host a portion of that. So staff, I know, are working together with that, and we look forward to hearing more about that as
Nice to bring him in
moving
here.
forward. So it could be very, very interesting for us and working together with the those that are putting together the Grand Fondo. So some potential very exciting activities there. Anything further? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, second by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Clerk's Department report for information. Discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And the next item is the CAO's report. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the Committee of the Whole receive the March 2013 Chief Administrative Officer's report for information. Any discussion regarding that particular report? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next meeting and adjournment. Thank you. It has been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, seconded by Councilor King. This regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting, being the Policy and Priorities Committee, scheduled for Monday, April 15th, 2013, unless sooner called by the mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.